There are many questions that abound after the death of Collins Khoza, who allegedly died at the hands of the SANDF during lockdown. One expert is suggesting the military is not suited for internal deployment, particularly where it must fight a so-called invisible enemy such as coronavirus. Let's talk now to Craig Bailie, a lecturer in political science. He has a focus on military affairs and joins us from Stellenbosch University. Craig, good afternoon to you. You write that the mismatch between defence policy and practice is fundamental to understanding the circumstances around the death of Collins Khoza. Maybe we could start off with an explanation on that.
Sure, Jeremy. Yes, thank you. I think, if I may, perhaps just to give two important qualifications in discussions around how prepared the SANDF was for being deployed against, or at least in the fight against COVID-19. The one is firstly our country's historical context, and I think the apartheid legacy that draws on that. Our country, South Africa, was built, and its systems were resourced really to serve the interests of a minority. And to be fair to our post-94 political leaders, this really is a legacy that they had to deal with and still are dealing with. And I think this has had a significant impact on how we have trained, equipped and prepared our defence force. The other important qualification is that, we talk about the military being prepared, and I think it would be fair and safe to say that no military across the world would have been fully prepared for taking action against COVID-19. I think we need to see preparation on a spectrum or scale of sorts, if you will, and understand that no military would have been fully prepared. At the same time, however, I do believe that the SANDF could have been better prepared for the task that it currently faces.
Preparedness, you also suggest, involves a different type of culture.
Absolutely. I did mention in a piece that I recently had published that culture is very important in these discussions. And if you look at research done on our military's involvement in peace operations, for example, one of the conclusions made there is that our defence force lacks an understanding of the humanitarian element or factor, the kind of recognition of human dignity and human value that one would expect of a force that is deployed, whether it be for peacekeeping operations or to do humanitarian work, as is currently the case in the fight against COVID-19. I think the failure to cultivate the necessary culture, and by that I mean more specifically a recognition and respect for human dignity, really found explicit expression in the death, and you've already mentioned his name, of Mr. Collins Khoza, which was very unfortunate. And I think we need to give a lot of consideration and public debate and discussion as to how we're going to change things around.
How are you reading the response then from the Defence Ministry and also the SANDF? There seems to be a lot of prevarication, a lot of backpedaling.
I think that this is a fair assessment to make, Jeremy. An expert on South Africa's military affairs has already said that the SANDF lacks the necessary degree of transparency. And I think this really does bring us to the issue of leadership, which I've also written about in the context of our country's civil-military relations. I think what we need in the present time, and this certainly isn't unique to South Africa, is for leaders to recognize where things could have been done better, to admit failures or mistakes, and then to commit to doing things better going forward. And I think this is something we need to see more of, as I said a moment ago, not just in South Africa, but certainly across the world.
Craig Bailie from Stellenbosch University, thank you for the insight.